in that deadly attack in Virginia.
Get out of the park!
The streets of Charlottesville becoming a battleground between white supremacists and counter-protesters. What we're now learning about the 20-year-old driver who plowed his car into a sea of people. Killing one, injuring more than a dozen, and President Trump under fire for his response, quickly calling out the hate groups behind the violence. His own party saying he didn't go far enough. His Attorney General responding this morning on GMA as we learn more about the young woman killed standing up for peace and the man who risked his life to save his fiancée, speaking out right here.
Also this morning, takedown in Paradise. Authorities seizing thousands of gallons of illicit alcohol from restaurants, resorts, and clubs in Mexico, including that hotel where a 20-year-old American tourist died. What her family is now saying.
First on GMA, the never-before-heard tapes from the case captivating the nation for 15 years. Scott Peterson speaking out from death row about the murder of his pregnant wife, Lacey.
And the Mission Impossible stunt gone wrong. The terrifying moment Tom Cruise leaps, kicks, and then crashes into a building. How he was able to walk away.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And we do say good morning, America, and thanks for being with us on this Monday morning. As you can imagine, there's a lot of news to get to. Many still thinking about what happened over the weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia. Just so tragic.
Yes, it is, Robin. And we're going to take a look at some of the images that are coming in overnight. Thousands uniting coast to coast from Los Angeles to Indianapolis to Brooklyn, showing their solidarity with the victims of Saturday's attack.
That attack taking place during a violent rally in Virginia. White nationalists were holding that rally. There were then counter-protesters, the clash turning deadly. This horrific scene, a 20-year-old suspect who was reportedly seen on video beforehand chanting white power, then driving into the crowd, killing a young woman, injuring 19 others. 2 state troopers also losing their lives, killed in a helicopter crash while trying to respond to the scene.
This morning, we're learning new details about the victims and the suspect that is now in custody. We have team coverage starting with ABC's Eva Pilgrim, who's still there on the scene for us in Charlottesville. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Robin. You can see the memorial here growing at the crash site. Messages of love written on the pavement as this community tries to process what happened here this weekend.
This morning, growing anger over the deadly Virginia protest that left 1 dead and 19 injured as hundreds of white nationalists clashed with counter-protesters Saturday, turning the streets of Charlottesville into a full-fledged battle zone. It all started Friday night when white supremacists stormed the University of Virginia's campus ahead of a protest over plans to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Then, the Saturday protest they say had been coordinated with local police for months was met with opposition. The violent unrest turned deadly. Watch as this car plowed down the street straight into a sea of counter-protesters. The driver, 20-year-old James Alex Fields Jr., quickly reversing, barreling back over demonstrators. 32-year-old Heather Heyer was killed during what some are saying was an act of domestic terrorism. Her mother calling for peace.
Heather's life was not about hate. And this young man who ran my daughter down mistakenly believed that hate would change the world. And it does, but not.
She actually died for something that she believed in. She was a fighter. She believed in equality and peace and love.
Marissa and her fiance Marcus were marching with Heather when the car came flying toward them.
Heather was right in front of me. She was in front of my fiance.
Marcus pushed Marissa and some of their other friends out of harm's way. This picture showing him hit by the car, flipping in the air.
People just need to admit what went on yesterday was wrong.
This morning, graphic images like this showing white nationalists beating 20-year-old DeAndre Harris with sticks going viral.
We were walking down, they bum rushed us, and they just beat me with the poles.
Adding to the chaos, a freak helicopter crash, killing 2 Virginia State troopers responding to the protest, Pilot Burke Bates and Lieutenant Jay Cullen. The unrest spilling over Sunday as Jason Kessler, the organizer of the Unite the Right rally, spoke out.
I would like to condemn any of the violence that happened yesterday.
But was suddenly mobbed. Kessler tackled to the ground as police escorted him to safety.
Now, Fields is expected to be in court this morning, as are many of the demonstrators who were arrested over the weekend. Robin.
And even many noted that over the weekend during those protests that they saw police officers just standing by and not doing anything as the protesters clashed. And so some are asking, did law enforcement do enough?
That's right, Robin. There's been a lot of criticism as to if law enforcement should have done more to separate these two sides. The other big question, a lot of the streets in this downtown area were supposed to be closed until 7 p.m. that day. The question this morning, did that happen? Robin.
A lot of questions. All right, Eva, thank you.
Robin, this morning we're also learning new details about the suspected driver behind that deadly attack in Virginia. 20-year-old James Alex Fields is due in court this morning facing charges for second-degree murder. Here's our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
This is the man who police say was behind the wheel of this car in the deadly attack in Charlottesville. James Alex Field Jr., this morning in jail charged with the second-degree murder of Heather Heyer. The FBI now dissecting Field's background, launching a civil rights investigation to determine if the attack was a hate crime or domestic terrorism.
The premeditated violence that our community experienced today was completely unacceptable.
A key question this morning, federal authorities want to know, does Fields have any ties to white supremacist groups, and was he directed to attack? These photos show Fields at the rally Saturday just before the tragedy, standing with members of Vanguard, a group described as a white supremacist organization. On Sunday, the group claimed Fields is not a member. This as we learn more about Fields, a 20-year-old who lived with his mother in Ohio until recently. According to the Pentagon, Fields attempted to join the military in August of 2015, but lasted only 4 months after failing to meet training standards. Some associates are now painting a disturbing picture.
I hate to say it, I wasn't that surprised.
One of his high school teachers says he idolized dictator and mass murderer Adolf Hitler.
He felt that, whites were superior. We covered the rise of Hitler. He would often say how, Hitler's views were right. What if Hitler had won?
Former classmates telling a similar story, saying during an overseas trip to Germany, he allegedly told students while walking through a concentration camp, this is where the magic happened.
He was vocal about his ideas. He proclaimed himself as a Nazi and as a white supremacist. It wasn't a secret.
But his mother, who learned of the incident on camera,
Did it hurt anybody?
says she saw no evidence of racist beliefs and only had limited knowledge of his trip to Charlottesville.
I didn't know it was white supremacists. I thought it had something to do with Trump. I just knew he was going to a rally. I tried to stay out of his political views.
Those political beliefs were apparently intense. Fields drove 8 hours from Ohio to Charlottesville, and authorities suspect those beliefs were tinged with hate and eventually murder. Robin?
All right, Pierre, thank you. As we know, many closely watching the White House's response to the Charlottesville violence. President Trump facing criticism from members of his own party for condemning hatred and violence on, quote, many sides without mentioning white nationalists. The White House then putting out a statement on Sunday, specifically condemning white supremacists for the attack. At the White House last night, hundreds gathered to show solidarity with the Charlottesville victims. Let's go to our senior White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega, for more on all this. Good morning, Cecilia.
Robin, good morning. This is a president who is often quick to call out people and groups by name, but not in the wake of what happened in Charlottesville.
This morning, President Trump under fire for not going far enough.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides.
His comments following the violence in Charlottesville drawing backlash from even allies in his own party.
I think that clearly He should talk much more aggressively about it.
Under pressure, the White House forced to try to clarify. An administration official insisting on anonymity, releasing this statement saying the president condemns all forms of violence, bigotry, and hatred. And of course, that includes white supremacists, KKK, neo-Nazi, and all extremist groups. The vice president echoing that.
We have no tolerance for hate and violence from white supremacists, neo-Nazis, or the KKK.
But the president not saying those words himself.
Mr. President, do you want the support of these white nationalist groups who say they support you, Mr. President?
At his Bedminster Golf Club, no comment.
Have you denounced them strongly enough?
His own national security advisor taking a hard line.
I certainly think any time that you commit an attack against people to incite fear, it is terrorism.
And his short-lived communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, ousted after just 11 days on the job, adding to the heat.
Well, I wouldn't have recommended that statement. I think he needed to be much harsher as it related to the white supremacists and the nature of that.
Now, the president had promised a big press conference today where you can bet this question of would he and should he be going farther on this issue of neo-Nazis would be question number one. But, Robin, there is no press conference on his public schedule for today. It's unclear whether there will actually be one.
All right, Cecilia, thank you. David?
Robin, thank you. And joining us now is U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Mr. Attorney General, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
We did learn overnight that the vice president has now condemned the violence in Charlottesville, saying we have no tolerance for hate and violence from white supremacists, neo-Nazis, or the KKK. These dangerous fringe groups, he says, have no place in America. When will we hear President Trump actually single out those groups by name?
Well, he said that yesterday, as a spokesman did in his initial statement on this, roundly and unequivocally condemned hatred and violence and bigotry. He called on our people to work together in community and in love and affection and not in hatred and violence. I'm sure he'll talk again, maybe today, on this very subject. He cares about it deeply. As his Attorney General, I understand exactly what I'm expected to do. It's what I will do, and that is to vindicate the rule of law.
You did say that the president did speak out over the weekend, but he did not single out these groups by name. It was an unnamed White House official who said that. I do want to ask you, part of his reaction was that there was hatred on many sides. On many sides, he added a second time. There was immediate reaction from those who were puzzled. This was a white nationalist rally. What sides was he talking about here?
Racism, white supremacy is totally unacceptable. I think the president talked about the problems in America in that first statement had been going on a long time. He said before Donald Trump, before Barack Obama, a long time. I think that's the kind of thing he was referring to.
But he was talking to the
he was unequivocal.
He was talking to the nation about a white nationalist
bigotry.
rally. He was talking to the nation about a white nationalist rally. And in doing so, he talked about the hatred on many sides.
He explicitly condemned the kind of ideology behind these movements of Nazism, white supremacy, the KKK. That is his unequivocal position. He totally opposes those kind of values. His statement yesterday again affirmed that, and I think you'll hear that again today.
As you know, Attorney General, it's not just reporters like me. There are a growing number of Republicans who say the president needs to be doing more. Marco Rubio, Orrin Hatch, Ted Cruz calling this domestic terrorism. Do you agree? Was this domestic terror?
Well, it doesn't meet the definition of domestic terrorism in our statute. We are pursuing it in the Department of Justice in every way that we can make a case. You can be sure we will charge and advance the investigation toward the most serious charges that can be brought, because this is an unequivocally unacceptable and evil attack that cannot be accepted in America. So absolutely, that is a factor that we'll be looking at.
You have said the president will speak out again on this, and there was Senator Cory Gardner of Colorado who said this.
Call this white supremacism, this white nationalism evil, and let the country hear it, let the world hear it. It's something that needs to come from the Oval Office, and this White House needs to do it today.
It's a Republican senator there from Colorado. Is that coming now from the president?
Well, the president will, I suspect, will be talking to the country again soon, maybe today. I plan to meet with him today, and the FBI today will be meeting with him to brief him on this case. He takes it exceedingly seriously, and there's no doubt about it. He opposes these kind of radical racist bigotry that these organizations espouse.
You talk about this as an opportunity to come together on this front. This is a president, as you know, who is known for his blunt talk. You know, for a week now, we've been reporting on the war of words with North Korea. Many Americans could likely quote that line, his warning of fire and fury. He was so clear on North Korea. And even as a candidate, he said this.
To solve a problem, you have to be able to state what the problem is, or at least say the name.
Will he say the name of these groups?
Well, he will say what he believes is appropriate. I think he probably will. His spokesman has already said that yesterday. I fully expect him to say it again. The initial statement he gave was within just a few hours of the event occurring, and I believe it was very strong and a clear condemnation of racial bigotry and hatred, and white supremacy certainly was included in bigotry and hatred. So I think the president will be there. He is a strong leader. He's an outspoken leader. He expresses himself in clear and blunt terms. The American people elected him. I think that was one of the things they liked about him. And I think he'll be honest and direct with the American people as soon as he talks to them again.
We're thinking about those two families of the state troopers and that mother of that young woman who was killed this morning. Mr. Attorney General, thank you for being here.
Thank you, David.
Cannot forget those families who are in mourning here this morning.
But again, you said it, and even Jeff Sessions said it. You know, the president has always been very clear and very blunt. He has not been to this point. And it's just inexcusable to many people that he hasn't.
And the question is if and when.
Well, one thing that has been clear is the social media reaction to the attack. It has created the hashtag #EndOfHate. It's the top trend this morning. So many people speaking out against hate and violence, and some are even trying to use social media to shame some of those marchers. Lindsay Davis, she's been tracking it all. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, Michael. Images of those protesters over the weekend have gone viral, and a Twitter account called Yes, You're Racist is now trying to serve what it calls justice by asking the internet to identify and expose those who participated in the violent demonstrations on behalf of online hate groups. The account quickly found and outed some of the attendees and also took responsibility for one man losing his job, and another had to call into his local news station to defend himself. However, one professor was mistakenly identified as a man at the rally, forcing the man to defend his location over the weekend. But there have also been some unifying tweets as well. Former President Barack Obama shared quotes from Nelson Mandela after the clashes in Charlottesville, saying that no one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Michael.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And that is no truer words ever spoken.
That's right. Let's get to Ginger now.
Yeah, and we're watching Tropical Storm Gert, which is about 475 miles southwest of Bermuda. But this is really not going to impact the United States as far as the storm itself. Just some high surf, especially around the Outer Banks tomorrow morning. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, those select cities brought to you by the Hitman's Bodyguard, rated R.
Critics are raving about the Hitman's Bodyguard.
Did your little research, did you?
It's hilarious and a hell of a good time.
The Boy Scout salute, you have no word.
With mind-blowing action.
You got a little speck of blood everywhere.
Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson are the perfect combo.
No! You about done?
It's romantic.
On 3, 1. That's really beautiful, man.
The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Wait, there is one important thing.
She sounds like she's gonna make a good mother someday.
Rated R. In theaters Friday.
Well, don't wash the car this work week. Each day this week we'll have a little bit of rain moving through. Some spotty showers today. The best chances between 2 and 8 p.m. High temperatures will be in the lower and mid 80s. And then by the end of the work week, best chance of rain Thursday and Friday with high heat. Look at the heat indices for the end of the work week will be anywhere from 90 to about 97 degrees across the area. Meanwhile, for the upcoming weekend now looking dry. Solar eclipse day dry.
Coming up first on GMA, Scott Peterson now speaking out from death row.
You could be